Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Carson here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, Tuesday, October 31st, where we did see gains across the board for the major indexes reversing higher today. So maybe a little bit of a treat here, Ed, but it's not totally clear that investors who've gotten spooked in recent weeks are coming back to the market in a significant way yet. Not seeing that institutional buying by and large.
Yeah, still have more to go. We're a couple of stocks that had big moves on the upside, Arista Networks and Cameco, and then one on the downside, Elf Beauty.
Okay, we'll take a look at those three stocks. But first, let's analyze those major indexes. The Nasdaq today up 0.5% by sessions close, outpaced by the S&P 500 up almost 0.7%. Even better was the Russell 2000 up 0.9% today, and the Dow managing a gain of 0.4%. So the Nasdaq continuing its rally attempt here, Ed, and looking like it closed at session highs, again reversing higher, getting back above that 200-day line for now.
Yeah, so it was a modestly positive session. It was nice to get above the 200-day line. Still have a lot of resistance levels like the 13,000, the 21-day, the 50-day line. So there's lots of hurdles. And the other indexes, all the big indexes, all the small indexes, they're all below the 200-day line. So there's a lot of work for them to go. But still, positive session, and bond yields were flat. So it wasn't like we got a tailwind from that. So nice to see. But we have the Fed meeting tomorrow. We still have a lot of earnings, and we need the market to prove itself. As you were saying, we haven't really seen the institutional support. This is day three of a rally attempt, so you could start seeing a Nasdaq follow-through day, which is a really strong price gain on higher volume than the prior session. And we'll see if we can get that in the next few days. And even if we do get that, still have these hurdles. And we need more stocks to set up. There's some stocks that are setting up, but it's not like there's this. Sometimes when the market's close to a follow-through day, you can some are just busting out, and there's a whole bunch that are ready to go. And this one, there's a lot more damage with leading stocks, given we've had 3 legs down, so it's not too many stocks that are set up at this point.
That makes sense. And if the rally attempt can continue, then the question will become, okay, well, was this just a short-term oversold bounce and we're going to roll over again? Or is it going to lead to something more on the upside? And that's where all of that evidence that you outlined is really going to be a critical factor for traders to consider.
Yeah.
Okay. Next on the list, let's take a look at some breadth measures. So first, let's compare QQQ and QQEW. So QQQ today, which tracks the Nasdaq 100, up 0.5%. QQEW, Ed, up 0.9%, and trying to bottom here.
Yeah, so there was breadth even when the major indexes were down in the morning. Most of the other, like these equal weights or small cap, they were positive, and they did pretty well. But as you can see, this one's well below the 200-day line, whereas QQ is not. RSP, nice gain here, but way below the moving averages, where the S&P just has a little bit to get to the 200-day line. So nice to see the breadth, but need to see it again and again and again. I mean, there's just weak breadth has been there for so long now, and maybe it's too much to hope for to have a really broad rally, but you'd like to have something, something close to a broad rally.
Yeah, something we're keeping a close watch on. Let's take a look at ANET, a mover on earnings today, and this one strengthened throughout the day after a little bit of volatility in the early going, but then picked back up, closing near session highs today, up over 14%. We had strong volume, strong results here, Ed, although maybe a little bit of deceleration there on the top line, but an RS line blue dot. So I think it's a little tricky with ANET given its recent history, but one could argue that, and of course we have to see what happens from here. That's really going to be the key. Can it hold up? Because we know when you do get a follow through day that works, there are stocks that will break out ahead of that often lead the next leg higher. So who knows? Maybe that's what we're seeing here with ANET, but it seems kind of risky to be making that bet right here.
Yeah, obviously, if the market follows through, it's a very good chance that stocks that were moving ahead of that will keep on going. But if the market sells off, sometimes you get this 1 day pop, and then it's like, oh yeah, let's go back to selling off or struggling. Obviously, ANET has this weird scenario where it really reacts to Microsoft or Meta earnings, and last week it was on Meta's capital spending results, and that knocked it. And then ANET came out and said, no, don't worry about it. We had strong results. We have strong guidance. So that makes it really difficult to
And that
trade,
happened
even
last
though
quarter too, right, Ed?
there was something like that. I think I'm not sure what the warning was, but there was definitely concerns about that. And so it'd be nice if they reported on the same day, because it might be a much smoother. You would think with a stock that had such consistent growth and usually beats views that it would have a normal looking chart, but it's really tough. And this is one of the big winners on the S&P. I mean, over 60% this year, but it's really hard to trade when you dive into the prior base just ahead of earnings. I mean, that's how you're supposed to deal with that. In any case, yes, at this point, you potentially could have bought it today when it cleared some certain levels or cleared the buy point. At this point, you might want to wait to see if it holds steady, maybe drifts lower, forms a high handle, just gives a little bit of another, see if it can hold that, and then take advantage of that, depending on how the market is. But definitely one to watch. It's frustrating at times looking at this one, but it's definitely one to watch.
Mhm. Let's go to CCJ, another earnings winner today, Ed.
And yeah, another thing, this one had gargantuan earnings, almost 1,000%. And the sales actually missed, but then they raised sales guidance, and it was pretty strong sales growth, 48%. Uranium prices are high. There's geopolitical, uncertainty with Russia, with Niger, which are a couple of big uranium sources. There's more demand for power, and the RS line's at a new high already. You could have bought it today as it broke a trend line or broke that short-term high, as it was still getting above the 50-day line. It really held that area, yeah, right in there. It was getting above those levels all at that time. So you could have been buying it in here. At this point, you could wait to see if it forms a handle. After this week, it will have a new base if it doesn't go to a new high. So this is legitimate. But again, just like Arista, do you want to be jumping in right here after a big move like that? Because this does have some big swings up and down.
It does. It really does. Yeah, that's going to be another key. How can it hold this gain after, and can it tighten up and present a new setup for traders if they didn't act quick on the trigger this morning, which I know the swing trader team did in the first 20-30 minutes of the trading day, I believe. And it was today's stock of the day, Ed.
That's right. So look, and this is a really hot field. So yeah, it's definitely one to be watching. And you may think about these things, if you are aggressive and you think I'm going to be a swing trader, think about it more in a swing trade type mentality. Maybe take some quick profits or something if you do get something, at least until the market really starts proving itself. You are really sort of you're playing with fire, but you might score with that, but it's just a trickier environment. They have to be extra nimble.
Yeah, well said there. Let's go to Elf. A bad break here, Ed, after there already were some warning signs with a heavy volume break below a key level and some kind of wedging action. So a light volume rally, which is a sign of weakness, but a big break below various technical levels today here, heading into earnings.
Yeah, unless you bought it well before and like very early on, you definitely would have wanted to have been getting well, because a lot of the recent gains were wiped out. Maybe somewhere, like is it that first mark or the second one, like right at the beginning of the year, you could have held on to some of it, but there were some pretty strong sell signals, as you say, big volume and then low volume rally attempts, never getting back above the 50-day line really, or the 10-week. So you probably, either entirely out by now or really reduced position at this point. Seems like you'd probably want to be out of it entirely. I know there's earnings tomorrow, and maybe they'll do it again. They've had blowout earnings and blowout guidance time and time again. Of course, that might raise the expectations levels. If they only beat and they only raise guidance a little, you could see this sell off. We'll have to see. But the technicals, this is an example that technicals, you have to you buy on fundamentals and technicals, but on the sell side, usually the technicals will show up negatively before
Mhm.
the earnings, because the earnings will probably be strong. The earnings will probably be strong this time, and they've been magnificent. I mean, you can't say anything wrong about L's fundamentals. But this one, maybe the run is over, or going to be looks seriously damaged at this point. Obviously, we're all going to pay attention to the earnings tomorrow, but you have to respect those sell signals, and not hope that something will turn up to make everything look good again.
Right. And with the studies that we've done of the big winners of the past and just base structures in general, when you see, best case scenario, the stock forms a new base and continues higher. But when you see the kind of action on the left side, it doesn't always, or maybe very rarely, will shoot straight back up to new highs. So it could take a while for this one to heal and to look better.
Yeah, and there's no reason necessarily it doesn't, and even it does set up again. I mean, there's a good chance it isn't the real leader. I mean, it's like, do you really stick with
Yeah, it
this
already
one?
had a big move,
There's other options that you might have. That is, after such a big run, this may not have it. So even in a good scenario, it may not really be what you want to be in anyway. So
Mhm.
again, this has been a great stock, and but boy, it's had a rough several weeks here, and today was a real clear mark.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of concealer to cover that up. Uh, all right. Well, that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, and we hope you join us. Investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that. We will see you there, and we'll also see you right back here tomorrow at the close.